Adventure 11 of The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding. Adventure 11. The Adventure of the Beryl Coronet. "Holmes," said I, as I stood one morning in our bow window looking down the street, "here is a madman coming along. It seemed rather sad that his relatives should allow him to come out alone." My friend rose lazily from his armchair and stood with his hands in the pockets of his dressing gown, looking over my shoulder. It was a bright, crisp February morning, and the snow of the day before still lay deep upon the ground, shimmering brightly in the wintry sun. Down the centre of Baker Street it had been ploughed into a brown, crumbly band by the traffic, but at either side and on the heaped-up edges of the footpaths it still lay as white as when it fell. The grey pavement had been cleaned and scraped, but was still dangerously slippery, so that there were fewer passengers than usual. Indeed, from the direction of the Metropolitan Station, no one was coming, save the single gentleman whose eccentric conduct had drawn my attention. He was a man of about 50, tall, portly and imposing, with a massive, strongly marked face and a commanding figure. He was dressed in a sombre yet rich style, in black frock coat, shining hat, neat brown gaiters and well-cut pearl-grey trousers. Yet his actions were in absurd contrast to the dignity of his dress and features, for he was running hard with occasional little springs, such as a weary man gives who is little accustomed to set any tax upon his legs. As he ran, he jerked his hands up and down, waggled his head, and writhed his face into the most extraordinary contortions. "What on earth can be the matter with him?" I asked. "He is looking up at the numbers of the houses." "I believe that he is coming here," said Holmes, rubbing his hands. "Here?" "Yes. I rather think he is coming to consult me professionally. I think that I recognise the symptoms.
Weight of it all.
Ha! Did I not tell you?" As he spoke, the man, puffing and blowing, rushed at our door and pulled at our bell until the whole house resounded with the clanging. A few moments later he was in our room, still puffing, still gesticulating, but with so fixed a look of grief and despair in his eyes that our smiles were turned in an instant to horror and pity.
"I am on the verge of absolute
For a
ruin.
while he could not get his words out, but swayed his body and plucked at his hair like one who has been driven to the extreme limits of his reason. Then, suddenly springing to his feet, he beat his head against the wall with such force that we both rushed upon him and tore him away to the centre of the room. Sherlock Holmes pushed him down into the easy-chair and, sitting beside him, patted his hand and chatted with him in the easy, soothing tones which he knew so well how to employ.
Drink this.
"You have come to me to tell your story, have you not?" said he. "You are fatigued with your haste. Pray wait until you have recovered yourself, and then I shall be most happy to look into any little problem which you may submit to me." The man sat for a minute or more with a heaving chest, fighting against his emotion. Then he passed his handkerchief over his brow, set his lips tight, and turned his face towards us. "No doubt you think me mad," said he.
"Now, sir, before you
"I
speak,
see
must know
that you
I am
have
in
had
possession of
some
every
great
fact. You
trouble,"
must hold nothing back, no
responded
matter how personal or how
Holmes.
trivial it may seem."
"God knows I
My
have.
name is
A
Alexander.
trouble which is enough to
I am the
unseat
senior
my
partner of the
reason.
banking firm
So
of Baldwin
sudden and so
Stevenson.
terrible is it. Public disgrace I might have faced, although I am a man whose character has never yet borne a stain. Private affliction also is the lot of every man. But the two coming together, and in so frightful a form, have been enough to shake my very soul. Besides, it is not I alone. The very noblest in the land may suffer, unless some way be found out of this horrible affair.
Excuse me, sir.
Pray compose yourself, sir, said Holmes, and let me have a clear account of who you are and what it is that has befallen you.
Mr. Holder, I have
My name, answered our visitor, is probably familiar to your ears. I am Alexander Holder of the banking firm of Holder and Stevenson of Threadneedle Street. The name was indeed well known to us as belonging to the senior partner in the second largest private banking concern in the city of London. What could have happened then to bring one of the foremost citizens of London to this most pitiable pass?
I believe more than adequate.
We waited, all curiosity, until with another effort he braced himself to tell his story.
I think you will agree that the
I
contents
feel
of this
that
case
time
are
is
worth
of
at least
value,
double the
said
sum
he.
I have asked for.
That is why I hastened here when the police inspector suggested that I should secure your cooperation.
A moment.
I came to Baker Street by the Underground and hurried from there on foot, for the cabs go slowly through this snow. That is why I was so out of breath, for I am a man who takes very little exercise. I feel better now, and I will put the facts before you as shortly and yet as clearly as I can. It is, of course, well known to you that in a successful banking business, as much depends upon our being able to find remunerative investments for our funds as upon our increasing our connection and the number of our depositors. One of our most lucrative means of laying out money is in the shape of loans where the security is unimpeachable. We have done a good deal in this direction during the last few years, and there are many noble families to whom we have advanced large sums upon the security of their pictures, libraries, or plate. Yesterday morning I was seated in my office at the bank, when a card was brought in to me by one of the clerks.
It was.
I started when I saw the name,
Coronet.
for it was that of none other than... Well, perhaps even to you I had better say no more than that it was a name which is a household word all over the earth.
The Coronet.
One of the highest, noblest, most exalted names in England. I was overwhelmed by the honour, and attempted, when he entered, to say so. But he plunged at once into business, with the air of a man who wishes to hurry quickly through a disagreeable task. Mr. Holder,
The
said
circumstances
he,
that
I
have
have
caused
been
such a
informed
terrible
that you are in the
disaster
habit of
began the
advancing
day
money.
before.
The firm does so when the security is good, I answered. It is absolutely essential to me, said he, that I should have £50,000 at once. I could, of course, borrow so trifling a sum 10 times over from my friends, but I much prefer to make it a matter of business, and to carry out that business myself. In my position, you can readily understand that it is unwise to place oneself under obligations. For how long, may I ask, do you want this sum? I asked.
The collateral.
Next Monday I have a large sum due to me, and I shall then most certainly repay what you advance, with whatever interest you think it right to charge. But it is very essential to me that the money should be paid at once. I should be happy to advance it without further parley from my own private purse, said I, were it not that the strain would be rather more than it could bear. If, on the other hand, I am to do it in the name of the firm, Then, in justice to my partner, I must insist that, even in your case, every businesslike precaution should be taken." "I should much prefer to have it so," said he, raising up a square black morocco case which he had laid beside his chair. "You have doubtless heard of the Beryl Coronet." "One of the most precious public possessions of the Empire," said I. "Precisely." He opened the case, and there, embedded in soft, flesh-coloured velvet, lay the magnificent piece of jewellery which he had named. "There are 39 enormous beryls," said he, "and the price of the gold chasing is incalculable. The lowest estimate would put the worth of the coronet at double the sum which I have asked. I am prepared to leave it with you as my security." I took the precious case into my hands and looked in some perplexity from it to my illustrious client. "You doubt its value?" he asked. "Not at all. I only doubt the propriety of my leaving it. You may set your mind at rest about that. I should not dream of doing so were it not absolutely certain that I should be able in 4 days to reclaim it. It is a pure matter of form. Is the security sufficient?" "Ample." "You understand, Mr. Holder, that I am giving you a strong proof of the confidence which I have in you, founded upon all that I have heard of you. I rely upon you not only to be discreet and to refrain from all gossip upon the matter, but above all to preserve this coronet with every possible precaution.
My first thought was to lock it
because
in our
I need not
strongest
say
vaults
that
at
a
the bank.
great public scandal would be caused if any harm were to befall it. Any injury to it would be almost as serious as its complete loss, for there are no beryls in the world to match these, and it would be impossible to replace them. I leave it with you, however, with every confidence, and I shall call for it in person on Monday morning."
The headlines
Seeing
are full
that
of these
my
recent,
client was
famous
anxious to
bank
leave, I
robberies.
said no more, but calling for my cashier, I ordered him to pay over 50 £1,000 notes. When I was alone once more, however, with the precious case lying upon the table in front of me, I could not but think with some misgivings of the immense responsibility which it entailed upon me.
It was an act of
There
insanity,
could be
Mr.
no
Holmes. I know
doubt
it now.
that, as it was a national
moment,
possession, a
I was not
horrible
myself.
scandal would ensue if any misfortune
moment
should
of
occur
madness,
to it.
I made my
I
decision.
already regretted having ever consented to
I
take
decided
charge
that
of
the
it.
coronet would be safer
However,
with me,
it
under my
was
own
too
roof,
late to
where I
alter
could
the
guard it
matter
myself,
now,
than in the
so I
strongest
locked it
vault
up
in
in
London.
my private safe and turned once more to my work. When evening came, I felt that it would be an imprudence to leave so precious a thing in the office behind me. Bankers' safes had been forced before now, and why should not mine be? If so, how terrible would be the position in which I should find myself. I determined, therefore, that for the next few days I would always carry the case backward and forward with me, so that it might never be really out of my reach. With this intention I called a cab and drove out to my house at Streatham, carrying the jewel with me. I did not breathe freely until I had taken it upstairs and locked it in the bureau of my dressing-room. And now a word as to my household, Mr. Holmes, for I wish you to thoroughly understand the situation. My groom and my page sleep out of the house and may be set aside altogether. I have 3 maidservants who have been with me a number of years, and whose absolute reliability is quite above suspicion. Another,
Every moment of
Lucy
that
Parr,
journey
the
was an
second
agony.
waiting maid, has only
Cursed
been
my
in
own
my
folly, but
service a
felt that
few
it was too late
months.
to turn back.
She came with an excellent character, however, and has always given me satisfaction. She is a very pretty girl and has attracted admirers who have occasionally hung about the place. That is the only drawback which we have found to her, but we believe her to be a thoroughly good girl in every way. So much for the servants. My family itself is so small that it will not take me long to describe it. I am a widower and have an only son, Arthur. He has been a disappointment to me, Mr. Holmes. A grievous disappointment. I have no doubt that I am myself to blame. People tell me that I have spoiled him. Very likely I have. When my dear wife died, I felt that he was all I had to love. I could not bear to see the smile fade even for a moment from his face. I have never denied him a wish. Perhaps it would have been better for both of us had I been sterner, but I meant it for the best.
There is my only son.
It was naturally
Arthur.
my intention that he should succeed me in my business. But he was not of a business turn. He was wild, wayward, and, to speak the truth, I could not trust him in the handling of large sums of money.
Tell me about it.
When he
Who
was
lives
young,
under
he
your
became a member of an
Who had access to the
aristocratic
house
club,
last night?
and there,
My
having
family is
charming
small.
manners,
The household
he was
consists
soon
of
the
myself,
intimate of a
2
number
servants,
of men
2 young
with
people
long
who afford
purses
all my
and
joy and all
expensive
my sorrow.
habits.
Oh, you should have
He
seen the
learned
look
to
on his
play
face.
heavily at cards and to squander money on the turf, until he had again and again to come to me and implore me to give him an advance upon his allowance, that he might settle his debts of honour. He tried more than once to break away from the dangerous company which he was keeping,
He is my only
but
son,
each
Mr.
time the
Holmes.
influence of
I
his
love him
friend,
dearly.
Sir George
But
Burnwell,
he has
was
been a
enough
bitter
to draw him
disappointment.
back again. And indeed, I could not wonder that such a man as Sir George Burnwell should gain an influence over him, for he has frequently brought him to my house, and I have found myself that I could hardly resist the fascination of his manner. He is older than Arthur, a man of the world to his fingertips, one who had been everywhere, seen everything, a brilliant talker and a man of great personal beauty. Yet when I think of him in cold blood, far away from the glamour of his presence, I am convinced from his cynical speech and
I
the
have paid
look
his
which I
debts of
have
honour,
caught
Mr.
in his
Holmes, again
eyes
and again.
that he is one who
But each
should be
time,
deeply
new debts
distrusted.
appear.
So I think, and so too thinks my little Mary, who has a woman's quick insight into character. And now there is only she to be described. She is my niece, but when my brother died 5 years ago and left her alone in the world, I adopted her, and have looked upon her ever since as my daughter. She is a sunbeam in my house, sweet, loving, beautiful, a wonderful manager and housekeeper, yet as tender and quiet and gentle as a woman could be.
It is my
She
right.
is my right hand. I do not know what I could do without her. In only one matter has she ever gone
And
against
who
my
else
wishes.
is in your household, Mr. Holder?
Twice my boy has asked her to marry him, for he loves her devotedly, but each time she has refused him. I think that if anyone could have drawn him into the right path, it would have been she,
has no one else in
and
the
that his
world.
marriage
She is
might
the
have
light of my
changed his
life,
whole
Miss-
life.
Her quiet, domestic
But now,
devotion
alas,
made her the
it is
perfect
too
Victorian
late.
woman.
Forever too late. Now,
My
Mr.
niece,
Holmes, you know the
Mary.
people who live under my roof, and I shall continue with my miserable story.
There, Uncle.
When we were taking coffee in the drawing room that night after dinner, I
She
told
is a
Arthur
model
and
of all
Mary
that a
my
young woman should
experience,
be.
and of the
Gentle,
precious
dutiful,
treasure
affectionate,
which we
and with a
had
heart
under
of
our
pure
roof,
gold.
suppressing only the name of my client. Lucy Parr, who had brought in the coffee, had, I am sure, left the
Safe
room,
at last.
but I cannot swear that the door was closed. Mary and Arthur were much interested, and wished to see the famous coronet,
Father?
but I thought it better not to disturb it.
Uncle!
"Where have you put it?" asked Arthur. "In my own bureau." "Well, I hope to goodness the house won't be burgled during the night," said he.
Come here. I
"It
have something
is
to
locked
show
up,"
you.
I
Something of the
answered.
greatest importance.
"Oh, any old key will fit that bureau. When I was a youngster, I've opened it myself with the key of the box-room cupboard." He often had a wild way of talking, so that I thought little of what he said. He followed me to my room, however, that night, with a very grave face. "Look here, Dad," said he, with his eyes cast down. "Can you let me have £200?
It was the last time it was
"No,
ever
I
seen
cannot,"
Holt.
I answered sharply. "I have been far too
The immense
generous
loan,
with you in money
The
matters."
royal client.
"You have been
The
very kind,"
incalculable value
said
of the
he,
coronet.
"but I must have this money, or else I can never show my face inside the club again." "And a very good thing, too," I cried. "Yes, but you would not have me leave it a dishonoured man. I could not bear the disgrace. I must raise the money in some way,
This coronet is
and
a
if you will
national
not
treasure.
let me have it, then
Its
I must
safety
try
has been
other means."
entrusted to me, and therefore to
I
this
was
house
very
for one night
angry,
only.
for this was the third demand during the month.
Do not
"You shall
touch
not
it.
have a
It is not a
farthing
toy."
from me," I cried, on which he bowed and left the room without another word. When he was gone, I unlocked my bureau, made sure that my treasure was safe, and locked it again. Then I started to go round the house to see that all was
My
secure,
dressing room.
a
It
duty
adjoins
which
my
I
bedroom, and I
usually
am a
leave
very
to
light
Mary,
sleeper.
but which I thought
I
it
will
well
lock it
to
in my
perform
bureau.
myself that night. As I came down the stairs, I saw Mary herself at the side window of the hall, which she closed and fastened as I
must
approached.
secure it for the night.
"Tell me, Dad," said she, looking, I thought, a little disturbed.
A simple
"Did you
bureau
give
lock
Lucy, the maid,
for a
leave to go
national
out
treasure?
tonight?"
That is
"Certainly not.
foolishness.
She came in
It
just
will
now
not
by the
leave my
back door.
sight, and it will be
I
under
have
my
no doubt
roof.
that she has
My
only been to
decision
the
is
side
final.
gates to see someone, but I think that it is hardly safe and should be stopped." "You must speak to her in the morning, or I will, if you prefer it. Are you sure that everything is fastened?" "Quite sure, Dad." "Then good night." I kissed her and went up to my bedroom again, where I was soon asleep. I am endeavouring to tell you everything, Mr. Holmes, which may have any bearing upon the case,
sound.
but I beg that you will question me upon any point which I do not make clear." "On the contrary, your statement is singularly lucid." I come to a part of my story now, in which I should wish to be particularly so. I am not a very heavy sleeper, and the anxiety in my mind tended, no doubt, to make me even less so than usual. About 2 in the morning, then, I was awakened by some sound in the house. It had ceased ere I was wide awake, but it had left an impression behind as though a window had gently closed somewhere. I lay listening with all my ears. Suddenly, to my horror, there was a distinct sound of footsteps moving softly in the next room. I slipped out of bed, all palpitating with fear, and peeped round the corner of my dressing-room door. "Arthur!" I screamed. "You villain, you thief! How dare you touch that coronet?" The gas was half up as I had left it, and my unhappy boy, dressed only in his shirt and trousers, was standing beside the light, holding the coronet in his hands. He appeared to be wrenching at it, or bending it with all his strength. At my cry, he dropped it from his grasp and turned as pale as death. I snatched it up and examined it. One of the gold corners, with 3 of the beryls in it, was missing. "You blackguard!" I shouted, beside myself with rage. "You have destroyed it! You have dishonoured me forever. Where are the jewels that you have stolen?" "Stolen?" he cried. "Yes, thief!" I roared, shaking him by the shoulder. "There are none missing. There cannot be any missing," said he. "There are 3 missing, and you know where they are. Must I call you a liar as well as a thief? Did I not see you trying to tear off another piece?" "You have called me names enough," said he. "I will not stand it any longer. I shall not say another word about this business, since you have chosen to insult me. I will leave your house in the morning, and make my own way in the world." "You shall leave it in the hands of the police," I cried, half mad with grief and rage. "I shall have this matter probed to the bottom." "You shall learn nothing from me," said he, with a passion such as I should not have thought was in his nature. "If you choose to call the police, let the police find what they can." By this time the whole house was astir, for I had raised my voice in my anger. Mary was the first to rush into my room, and at the sight of the coronet and of Arthur's face, she read the whole story, and with a scream fell down senseless on the ground. I sent the housemaid for the police, and put the investigation into their hands at once. When the inspector and the constable entered the house, Arthur, who had stood sullenly with his arms folded, asked me whether it was my intention to charge him with theft.
I am so sorry,
I
Father.
answered that it had ceased to be a private matter, but had become a public one, since the ruined coronet was national property. I was determined that the law should have its way in everything. "At least," said he, "you will not have me arrested at once. It would be to your advantage as well as mine if I might leave the house for 5 minutes." "That you may get away, or perhaps that you may conceal what you have stolen," said I. And then, realizing the dreadful position in which I was placed, I implored him to remember that not only my honour, but that of one who was far greater than I was at stake, and that he threatened to raise a scandal which would convulse the nation. He might avert it all if he would but tell me what he had done with the 3 missing stones. "You may as well face the matter," said I. "You have been caught in the act, and no confession could make your guilt more heinous. If you but make such reparation as is in your power by telling us where the Beryls are, all shall be forgiven and forgotten." "Keep your forgiveness for those who ask for it," he answered, turning away from me with a sneer. I saw that he was too hardened for any words of mine to influence him. There was but one way for it.
Silence condemned him.
I called in the inspector and gave him into custody.
I swear I did not.
A search was made at once not only of his person but of his room, and of every portion of the house where he could possibly have concealed the gems. But no trace of them could be found, nor would the wretched boy open his mouth for all our persuasions and our threats. This morning he was removed to a cell, and I, after going through all the police formalities, have hurried round to you to implore you to use your skill in unravelling the matter. The police have openly confessed that they can at present make nothing of it. You may go to any expense which you think necessary. I have already offered a reward of £1,000. My God, what shall I do? I have lost my honour, my gems, and my son in one night. Oh, what shall I do? He put a hand on either side of his head and rocked himself to and fro, droning to himself like a child whose grief
I
has
will have
got
no
beyond
more of this
words.
insolence. You have disgraced our name
Sherlock
for the last
Holmes
time.
sat silent for some few minutes, with his brows knitted and his eyes fixed upon the fire. "Do you receive much company?" he asked. "None, save my partner with his family and an occasional friend of Arthur's. Sir George Burnwell has been several times lately. No one else, I think." "Do you go out much in society?" "Arthur does. Mary and I stay at home. We neither
I
of
have
us
given you
care
your
for
chance
it."
to confess and explain.
"That
Now
is
I will give you to the
unusual in a
police.
young girl." "She is of a quiet
hold up.
nature.
I arrest you
Besides,
for the
she
theft
is
of the
not
Beryl
so very
Coronet.
young. She is 24. This matter, from what you say, seems to have been a shock to her also. Terrible. She is even more affected than
I'm
I.
trying to understand the sequence of events.
You
I
have
don't know
neither of you
anything.
any doubt as to your son's guilt? How
You were
can
at
we
the scene.
have, when I saw him with my own
You
eyes
were
with
at
the
the scene of the
coronet in
crime,
his
weren't you?
hands? I hardly consider that a conclusive proof. Was the remainder of the coronet at all injured? Yes, it was twisted. Do you not think, then, that he might have been trying to straighten it? God bless you. You are doing what you can for him and for me. But it is too heavy a task. What was he doing there at all? If his purpose were innocent, why did he not say so? Precisely. And if it were guilty, why did he not invent a lie?
She's fainted.
His
Fetch
silence
more water,
appears to me
quickly!
to cut both
poor
ways.
child.
There are
The
several
police conducted a
singular
thorough
points
search of
about
the entire
case.
house and grounds for the missing
What
piece
did
of the
the
coronet.
police think of the noise which awoke you from your sleep? They considered that it might be caused by Arthur's closing his bedroom door.
I'm sorry, sir.
A
It's gone
likely
without a
story.
trace.
As if a man bent on felony would slam his door so as to wake a household. What did they say then of the disappearance of these gems? They are still sounding the planking and probing the furniture in the hope of finding them. Have they thought of
My
looking
honour was
outside
in
the
ruins,
house?
Mr. Holmes.
Yes, they have shown extraordinary energy. The whole garden has already been minutely examined.
While in my care. My name,
Now,
the name
my
of my
dear
bank,
sir,
would be forever dishonored.
said Holmes, is it not obvious to you now that this matter really strikes very much deeper than either you or the police were at first inclined to think?
It. You have failed.
It appeared to you to be a simple
But then,
case.
Mr. Holmes,
To
after
me,
my first fit
it
of rage
seems
was over, and the
exceedingly
police had gone,
complex.
I began to think.
Consider what is involved by your theory.
Oh no.
You suppose that your son came
Is she
down
all
from
right?
his bed, went at great
accuse me
risk to your
falsely.
dressing room, opened your bureau, took out your coronet,
I know my
broke
son's
off
weaknesses.
by
He
main
is
force
easily led.
a
He
small
has gambled.
portion of it,
But is he a thief?
went
Is he a
off to some
vandal?
other place, concealed
stubborn,
3
silent
gems
refusal to
out of the
speak. It was not
39
the behaviour
with
of a
such
common
skill
criminal
that
caught in
nobody
the act.
can find them,
It was the
and then returned with the other 36 into the room in which he exposed himself to the greatest danger of being discovered. I ask you now, is such a theory tenable? But what other is there? Cried the banker with a gesture of despair. If his motives were innocent, why does he not explain them? It is our task to find that out,
The police have their man.
replied
They are
Holmes.
satisfied. They will look
So
no
now,
further.
if you
My son
please,
is
Mr.
doomed
Holder,
to be convicted on the
we
evidence.
will set off for Streatham
Could his
together,
silence, Mr. Holmes, be
and
the
devote
silence
an
of an
hour
innocent
to
man
glancing a
protecting
little more
another, and
closely
not the
into
silence of guilt?
details. End of
He is
part 1 of
protecting
Adventure
someone,
11,
Mr. Holmes.
The Adventure of the Beryl Coronet.
And the coronet is still incomplete. My professional and personal ruin is absolute, unless the missing piece is found.
You, Mr.
Part
Holmes,
2
are my
of Adventure
last and
11
only
of The
hope.
Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This
Please, you must
LibriVox
help me.
recording is in the public domain. Recording by Ruth Golding.
The case is a most
Adventure
remarkable
11.
one.
The
It presents
Adventure
several
of the
features
Beryl
genuine
Coronet.
interest, and I shall
Part
be happy to
2.
look into the matter.
My friend insisted upon my accompanying them in
My
their
dear
expedition,
Holder,
which I
the
was
game
eager enough
is
to
afoot.
do, for my curiosity and
Thank you, Mr.
sympathy were
Holmes.
deeply stirred by the story to which we had listened. I confess that the guilt
We
of
must
the
go to
banker's
Streatham
son
at
appeared
once.
to me to be as obvious as it did to his unhappy father. But still I had such faith in Holmes' judgment
Snow may
that
be
I
our
felt
greatest
there must
friend
be
in this
some
matter.
grounds for hope, as long as he was dissatisfied with the accepted explanation. He hardly spoke a word the whole way out to the southern suburb, but sat with his chin upon his breast and his hat drawn over his eyes, sunk in the deepest thought. Our client appeared to have taken fresh heart at the little glimpse of hope which had been presented to him, and he even broke into a desultory chat with me over his business affairs. A short railway journey and a shorter walk brought us to Fairbank, the modest residence of the great financier. Fairbank was a good-sized square house of white stone, standing back a little from the road. A double carriage sweep with a snow-clad lawn stretched down in front to two large iron gates which closed the entrance.
The police have searched everywhere, Mr.
On the
Holmes.
right side
They
was a
turned the house
small
upside
wooden
down. They
thicket
found nothing
which
at
led
all.
into a narrow path between
But
two
who?
neat hedges,
And why?
stretching from the road to
If
the
he is
kitchen
innocent,
door
then who is guilty?
and forming the tradesman's entrance. On the left ran a lane which led to the stables,
I do not doubt it.
and was not
We shall
itself
begin
within
again.
the grounds at all, being a public though little used thoroughfare. Holmes left us standing at the door and walked slowly all round the house, across the front, down the tradesman's path, and so round by the garden behind into the stable lane. So long was he that Mr. Holder and I went into the dining room and waited by the fire until he should return. We were sitting there in silence when the door opened and a young lady came in. She was rather above the middle height, slim, with dark hair and eyes, which seemed the darker against the absolute pallor of her skin. I do not think that I have ever seen such deadly paleness.
The police, of
in a
course, have
woman's
been
face.
here.
Her lips, too, were bloodless, but her eyes were flushed with crying.
Trampling all over the most vital
As she
evidence in their
swept
clumsy
silently
search
into
for
the
the
room,
obvious.
she impressed me with a greater sense of grief than the banker had done in the morning. And it was the more striking in her, as she was evidently a woman of strong character, with immense capacity for self-restraint. Disregarding my presence, she went straight to her uncle, and passed her hand over his head with a sweet womanly caress. "You have given orders that
What on
Arthur
earth
should
is he
be
doing?"
liberated, have you not, Dad?" she asked.
I have no idea.
No, my girl.
What
The
on
matter
earth
must
can he
be
doing?
probed to the bottom.
What can he possibly
But
see
I
in
am
that
so
snow?
sure that he is innocent. You know what woman's instincts are. I know that he has done no harm, and that you will be sorry for having acted so harshly." "Why is he silent, then, if he is innocent?" "Who knows? Perhaps because he
I have
was
learned
so
from long
angry that you
experience
should
never to question
suspect
his
him."
methods, no matter
How
how
could I
singular they
help
may seem.
suspecting him when I actually saw him with the coronet in his hand? "Oh, but he had only picked it up to look at it. Oh, do take my word for it that he is innocent. Let the matter drop and say no more. It is so dreadful to think of our dear Arthur in prison." "I shall never let it drop until the gems are found.
Tracks of
Never,
two
Mary."
man
Your
and a
affection
woman.
for Arthur blinds
Their
you as to
trail
the
was almost
awful
obliterated by the
consequences
fresh
to
fall of
me.
snow.
Far from hushing the thing up, I have brought a gentleman down from London to inquire more deeply into it. This gentleman?
paths
She
lead from a
asked,
nearby
facing
garden wall
round to me.
and converge at the spot
No,
beneath the
his
dressing room
friend.
window.
He wished us to leave him
They came
alone.
from
He
over
is
the
round in the
garden wall,
stable lane now.
stood here at the window for some
The
time,
stable lane?
and then departed.
She raised her dark eyebrows. What can he hope to
Observe,
find
Watson.
there? Ah,
The
this,
prints are
I
quite
suppose,
distinct
is
from
he.
one another.
I trust, sir, that you will succeed in proving what I feel sure is the truth, that my cousin Arthur is innocent of this crime. I fully share your opinion, and I trust with you that we may prove it, returned Holmes, going back to the mat to knock the snow from his shoes. I believe I have the honour of addressing Miss Mary Holder. Might I ask you a question or two? Pray do, sir, if it may help to clear this horrible affair up. You heard nothing yourself last night? Nothing, until my uncle here began to speak loudly. I heard that, and I came down. You shut up the windows and doors the night before. Did you fasten all the windows? Yes. Were they
man's
all
foot,
fastened
obviously.
this morning?
Note the square toe.
Yes. You have a maid
Fashionable
who has
boot.
a sweetheart. I think that you remarked to your uncle last night that she had been out to see him. Yes, and she was the girl who waited in the
Our
drawing
visitor
room,
was a
and
well-dressed
who
man,
may have
not
heard
a common
Uncle's
housebreaker.
remarks about the coronet. I see. You infer that she may have gone out to tell her sweetheart, and that the two may have planned the robbery. But what is the good of all these vague theories? Cried the banker impatiently, when I have told you that I saw Arthur with the coronet in his hands. Wait a little, Mr. Holder. We must come back to that. About this girl, Miss Holder.
Standing barefoot in
You
the
saw
snow
her return by
middle
the
of a
kitchen
freezing
door, I
February
presume.
night.
Yes.
Barefoot,
When I went to
Holmes?
see if the door was fastened for the night,
blizzard?
I met her slipping in.
It is
I
madness.
saw the man, too, in the gloom. Do you know him? Oh, yes. He is the greengrocer who brings our vegetables round. His name is Francis
And
Prosper.
the woman was the insider.
He stood,
She
said
came from the
Holmes,
house to meet
to
him.
the left of the door.
It was not a
That is to
burglary,
say,
Watson.
farther
It was an
up the
assignation.
path than
A
is
secret
necessary
meeting
to
between
reach
someone
the
from
door.
outside the house and someone
Yes,
from
he
within.
did.
The man was the outsider.
And he is a man with
he
a
came
wooden
from
leg.
over the wall to keep this
Something
appointment.
like fear sprang up in the young lady's
Having
expressive
established
black
that there were
eyes.
two people, and that one had
Why,
come from
you are
outside,
like a
my
magician,
next task
said
was
she.
to determine their point of
How do
entry
you
onto
know
the
that?
grounds.
She smiled, but there was no answering smile in Holmes' thin, eager face.
The point of entry
I
was
should
clear.
be very glad now to go upstairs, said he. I shall probably wish to go over the outside of the house again. Perhaps I had better take a look at the lower windows before I go up. He walked swiftly round from one to the other, pausing only at the large one which looked from the hall onto the stable lane. This he opened, and made a very careful examination of the sill with his powerful magnifying lens. Now we shall go upstairs, said he at last. The banker's dressing room was a
And there was a
plainly
third person.
furnished little chamber with
The
a
accomplice
grey
who waited
carpet,
with the carriage.
a large bureau, and a long mirror. Holmes went to the bureau
3 of them?
first and looked hard at the lock.
3 of them?
Which key was used to open it? He asked. That which my son himself indicated, that of the cupboard of the lumber room. Have you it here? That is it on the dressing table. Sherlock Holmes took it up and opened the bureau. It is a noiseless lock,
Good heavens, Holmes.
said he.
A man with a
It
wooden
is
leg.
no wonder that it did not wake you. This case, I presume, contains the coronet. We must have a look at it. He opened the case, and taking out the diadem, he laid it upon the table. It was a magnificent
I had seen
specimen of
her
the
barefoot
jeweller's
tracks
art,
leading from the
and the
house.
36 stones
those
were
were
the
not the only
finest that
prints
I
she
had
made.
ever seen.
Peculiar.
At one side of the coronet was a cracked edge, where a corner holding 3 gems had been torn away. "Now, Mr. Holder," said Holmes, "here is the corner which corresponds to that which has been so unfortunately lost. Might I beg that you will break it off?"
She came out to the meeting fully
The
shod,
banker
but at some point
recoiled
during
in
the
horror.
encounter, she took
"I
off her
should
boots
not
and returned to the
dream
house
of
barefoot.
trying," said he. "Then I will." Holmes suddenly bent his strength upon it, but without result. "I feel it give a little," said he, "but though I am exceptionally strong in the fingers, it would take me all my time to break it. An ordinary man could not do it. Now, what do you think would happen if I did break it, Mr. Holder? There would be a noise like a pistol shot. Do you tell me that all this happened within a few yards of your bed, and that you heard nothing of it?" "I do not know what to think. It is all dark to me." "But
It's a vast criminal
perhaps it may
enterprise.
grow lighter as we go. What do you think, Miss Holder?" "I confess that I still share my uncle's perplexity.
So it was
Your
a secret
son
meeting,
had
tryst,
no shoes
between
or
the woman
slippers on
from
when you
inside
saw
the
him.
house and the man who came
He
over
had
the wall.
nothing on save only his trousers and shirt.
And he has
Thank
kept
you.
silent all this time to
We
protect
have
the honor
certainly
of the
been
woman involved.
favoured with extraordinary luck during this inquiry, and it will be entirely our own fault if we do not succeed in clearing the matter up.
Now, let us examine the room itself.
With your permission, Mr. Holder, I shall now continue my investigations outside." He went alone at his own request, for he explained that any unnecessary footmarks might make his task more difficult. For an hour or more he was at work, returning at last with his feet heavy with snow and his features as inscrutable as ever. "I think that I have seen now all that there is to see, Mr. Holder," said he. "I can serve you best by returning to my rooms." "But the gems, Mr. Holmes, where are they?"
Forced
"I
with a
cannot
strong
tell."
blade, but with some
The
haste
banker
and
wrung
clumsiness.
his hands.
This was not the
"I
work
shall
of a
never
professional
see
burglar.
them again," he cried. "And my son, you give me hopes?" "My opinion is in no way altered."
And Arthur, he continues,
"Then, for
must have
God's
interrupted him.
sake, what was
He
this
wasn't the
dark
thief.
business which
He
was
was
acted
trying
in
to
my house
stop
last
the
night?
theft.
If you can call upon me at my Baker Street rooms tomorrow morning between 9 and 10, I shall be happy to do what I can to make it clearer. I understand that you give me carte blanche to act for you, provided only that I get back the gems, and that you place no limit on the sum I may draw." "I would give my fortune to have them back." "Very good. I shall look into the matter
You said you locked
between
this window
this
last
and
night,
then.
Mr. Holder?
I did.
Goodbye. It is just
And yet,
possible
it is
that I may have
unlatched
to
now.
come over here
The
again
police were
before
either very
evening.
careless in their search, or someone
It
has
was
unlatched
obvious
it
to
since.
me that my companion's mind was now made up about the case, although what his conclusions were was more than I could even dimly imagine. Several times during our homeward journey I endeavoured to sound him upon the point, but he always glided away to some other topic, until at last I gave it over in despair. It was not yet 3 when we found ourselves in our rooms once more. He hurried to his chamber, and was down again in a few minutes, dressed as a common loafer. With his collar turned up, his shiny, seedy coat, his red cravat, and his worn boots, he was a perfect sample of the class.
The man with the
"I think
square-toed
that this
boots.
should do,"
He stood out
said
there,
he, glancing into
and
the
the
glass
barefoot
above the
woman stood in here.
fireplace. "I only wish that you could come with me, Watson, but I fear that it won't do. I may be on the trail in this
The
matter,
coronet was passed
or
out
I
of
may
this
be
very
following a
window,
will-o'-the-wisp,
from her
but I shall
hands
soon know
into
which
his.
it is. I hope
must
that I may
take
be
it
back in
now.
a few hours."
Yes, I have it.
He cut a slice of beef from the joint upon the sideboard, sandwiched it between 2 rounds of bread,
This
and
confirms
thrusting
everything that
this
the
rude
footprints in the
meal into
snow
his
told us.
pocket, he started off upon
There
his
was a
expedition.
conspiracy. An inside accomplice.
I
a
had
member of your
just
own
finished my
household,
tea when he
and an outside
returned,
agent
evidently
who took the
in
coronet.
excellent spirits, swinging an old elastic-sided boot in his hand. He chucked it down into a corner and helped himself to a cup of
This
tea.
scratch on the sill was made by the
"I
man's muddy
only
boot
looked in as
he
I
perhaps
passed,"
climbed up on the ledge
said
to
he.
get a better grip
"I'm
during the
going right
exchange.
on."
Your
"Where
son,
to?"
Mr. Holder, did not force open that
"Oh,
bureau,
to the other
and he
side
did
of
not
the
let
West
in a
End.
thief. He is innocent
It
of
may
that,
be
at
some
least.
time before I get back. Don't wait up for me in case I should be late."
We must take the next logical
"How are you getting
step,
on?"
Mr. Holder.
"Oh, so. Nothing to complain of.
No,
I have been out to Streatham since I saw you last, but I did not call
I
at the
believe
house.
that I must now have a word with your niece,
It is a
Miss Mary.
very sweet little
Alone.
problem, and I would not have missed it for
Mary!
a good deal.
But she is the
However,
soul of
I must
goodness
not sit
itself.
gossiping here, but must get these
fainted from the
disreputable
shock.
clothes off and return to
Nevertheless,
my
I must
highly
speak with her.
respectable self.
It is of the utmost importance.
I could see by his manner that he had stronger reasons for satisfaction than his words alone would imply. His eyes
Bring
twinkled,
Mary to the dressing
and there
room.
was even a touch of colour upon his sallow cheeks. He hastened upstairs, and a few minutes later I heard the slam of the hall door, which told me that he was off once more upon his congenial hunt. I waited until midnight, but there was no sign of his return, so I retired to my room. It was no uncommon thing for him to be away for days and nights on end when he was hot upon a scent, so that his lateness caused me no surprise. I do not know at what hour he came in, but when I came down to breakfast in the morning, there he was, with a cup of coffee in one hand and the paper in the other, as fresh and trim as possible.
It breaks my heart.
"You will excuse my beginning without you, Watson," said he, "but you'll remember that our client has rather an early appointment this morning." "Why, it is after 9 now," I answered. "I should not be surprised if that were he. I thought I heard a ring." It was indeed our friend the financier. I was shocked by the change which had come over him, for his face, which was naturally of a broad and massive mould, was now pinched and fallen in, while
can
his
see that you have
hair
been
seemed to
deeply
me at
distressed
least
by
a
this
shade
matter, Miss Mary.
whiter. He entered
Perhaps
with
you
a
would be so good as to
weariness
recount
and
the events of the
lethargy
evening
which
from your
was
own
even more painful
memory
than
may
his
hold some small
violence of
detail
the
that has been
morning
overlooked.
before,
I was
and he
present when
dropped
my uncle
heavily
showed
into
them
the
coronet.
armchair which I pushed
horror.
forward for him.
Then my cousin's
"I
strange
do
behaviour.
not know what I
heard
have
my uncle
done to
cry
be
out,
so
and
severely
I rushed
tried,"
out and fainted
said
at
he.
the terrible sight of my
"Only
cousin.
2 days ago I was a happy
heard
and
your uncle's cry
prosperous
from your
man
room.
without a care in
Did
the
you
world.
hear any other sound before that?
Now I
A
am
man's
left to a
shout,
lonely
perhaps, from the
and
garden?
dishonoured age. One
It would be an
sorrow
honour to
comes
serve
close upon the heels of another. My niece Mary has deserted me." "Deserted you?" "Yes. Her bed this morning had not been slept in.
No,
Her
sir.
room was
I was
empty,
in my room,
and a
far on the
note
other
for
side of
me
the house.
lay upon the hall
I heard
table.
nothing at all until my uncle's cry.
I had said to her last
You
night
are
in
very
sorrow
fond of
and
your
not
cousin
in
Arthur,
anger
are you not?
that if she had married my boy all might have been well with him. Perhaps it was thoughtless of me to say so. It is to that remark that she refers in this note.
Thank you, Miss
"My
Mary.
dearest
You have
uncle,
been most helpful.
I feel that I have brought trouble upon you. and that if I had acted differently, this terrible misfortune might never have occurred. I cannot, with this thought in my mind, ever again be happy
I
under
have
your
loved
roof,
him all my life.
and I feel that I must
as a
leave
brother.
you forever. Do not worry about my future, for that is provided for. And above all, do not search for me, for it will be fruitless labour and an ill service to me.
This is most complex.
In life or in death, I am ever your loving Mary. What could she mean by that note, Mr. Holmes? Do you think it points to suicide? No, nothing of the
facts
kind.
were all there, Watson.
It is
they pointed in a
perhaps the
single,
best
terrible
possible
direction.
solution. I trust, Mr. Holder, that you are nearing the end of your troubles.
The evidence is
You
connected.
say so? You have heard something, Mr. Holmes. You have learned something. Where are the gems? You would not think £1,000 apiece an excessive sum for them? I would pay 10. That would
His
be
silence
unnecessary.
was the key that unlocked the entire
3,000
affair.
will cover the matter.
It was the most eloquent of
And
clues.
there is a little reward, I
The
fancy.
crime was not a simple burglary.
Have you your
It was a
checkbook?
conspiracy planned between
Here
the person
is a
inside
pen.
the house and his was the
Better make it
silence of a
up
man who
for
could not speak without bringing
£4,000.
dishonor and ruin upon someone else.
With a
Someone
dazed
he
face,
felt
the
duty bound
banker
to
made
protect.
out the
A
required
guilty man,
check.
Watson, would lie.
Holmes
He
walked
would
over
invent
to
a
his
clumsy
desk,
story, try to
took
shift the
out a
blame.
little
He would not
triangular
stand
piece
silent
of
and accept
gold
his doom.
with 3 gems in it, and threw it down upon the table. With a shriek of joy, our client clutched it up.
Therefore, if he
You
was detecting
have
the
it,
real
he
thief,
gasped.
he must have
I
known
am
who the real
saved.
thief was.
I am
He
saved.
must have caught them in the act.
The reaction of joy was as passionate as his grief
It was
had
here
been,
that Arthur
and
was
he
watching.
hugged his recovered gems
He
to
knew
his
something
bosom.
was happening.
There is one other thing you owe, Mr. Holder, said
My
Sherlock
love.
Holmes rather sternly. Oh! He caught up a pen. Name the sum, and I will pay it. No, the debt is not to me.
Arthur
You
was not
owe
the
a
thief,
very
gentlemen.
humble
He
apology
was the
to
one
that
who
noble
interrupted the
lad,
theft.
your son,
The bureau
who
was
has
forced
carried
from the
himself
inside.
in this matter,
The coroner
as I
passed
should
out
be
of the window.
proud to see my
The
own
theft was
son
therefore
do,
an inside
should
job.
I ever
The
chance
thief
to
must
have
have been
one.
someone with free access to this house.
Then it
Someone
was not
trusted.
Arthur who took
Someone
them.
who would not normally arouse
I
suspicion.
told you yesterday, and I repeat today, that it was not. You are sure of it? Then let us hurry to him at once to let him know that the truth is known. He knows it already.
There are only
When
2
I
likely
had
suspects
cleared it
within
all
the
up,
household who fit
I
this
had an
description.
interview
Your
with him,
son, Arthur,
and
your
finding
niece,
that
Mary.
he would not tell me the story,
Was your niece.
I told it to
The
him,
inside accomplice was
on which he
Mary.
had to confess that I was right, and to add the very few details which were not yet quite clear to me. Your news of this
We have
morning,
established that
however,
Arthur's
may
silence
open
is
his
almost
lips.
certainly an act of protecting someone
For
else.
heaven's
Therefore,
sake,
he
tell
is
me
innocent
then,
of
what
the
is
initial
this
theft.
extraordinary
By a
mystery?
simple process of elimination,
I
Watson,
will
we
do
are
so,
left with only one possible
and I
conclusion,
will show you
however
the
painful it
steps
may
by
be.
which I reached it. And let me say to you first that which it is hardest for me to say, and for you to hear.
Is an angel, the
There
light
has
of
been
my
an
life.
understanding between Sir George Burnwell
Her
and your
mask
niece
slipped.
Mary.
And I saw the truth.
They have now fled together. My Mary?
She is not
Impossible.
the angel you believe her to be.
It is
She is in love with a
unfortunately
great
more than
scoundrel,
possible.
a man of
It
bad
is certain.
character.
Neither you
is a
nor your
consummate
son
actress.
knew the true
Her
character
grief,
of
her
this
devotion,
man
her fainting
when you
spell, a
admitted
perfect
him
and
into your
brilliant
family
performance.
circle. He is one of the most dangerous men in England, a ruined gambler, an absolutely
Come, Watson, the game
desperate
is afoot.
villain, a man without heart or conscience.
I must
Your
now leave this
niece
house
knew nothing
and
of
go on a
such
hunt of my
men.
own, into the London
When he
underworld.
breathed his vows to her, as he had done
Now
to
we
100
must act.
before
The
her,
theory is complete.
she
but I
flattered
require the final,
herself that
physical
she
proof.
alone had
I must
touched
recover
his
the
heart.
missing gems.
I must find the man with
The
the square
devil
toed
knows
boots and his
best what
wooden-legged
he
accomplice.
said.
And where they
But
are,
at
we shall
least
find the
she
missing
became
piece of
his
the Beryl
tool,
Coronet.
and was in the habit of seeing him nearly every evening. "I cannot and I will not believe it," cried the banker with an ashen
You are leaving
face.
me?
"I will tell you then what occurred in your house last
Stay
night.
here. Trust no
Your
one.
niece,
Say nothing of
when
what
you
we have
had,
discovered.
as she thought, gone to your room, slipped
I am
down
not
and
abandoning
talked to
the
her
case, Mr.
lover
Holder.
through the
On
window
the contrary,
which leads
I
into
am
the
going to
stable
solve
lane.
it.
His footmarks had pressed
I shall
right through
return
the
this evening,
snow, so
and I
long
hope to
had
bring
he
you
stood
good
there.
news, and perhaps even
She
your missing
told him
jewels.
of the coronet. His wicked lust for gold kindled at the news, and he bent her to his will. I have no doubt that she loved you, but there are women in whom the love of a lover extinguishes all other loves, and I think that she must have been one. She had hardly listened to his instructions when she saw you coming downstairs, on which she closed the window rapidly and told you about one of the servants' escapade with her wooden-legged lover, which was all perfectly true.
Bah! Another day, another
Your
shilling.
boy, Arthur, went to bed after his interview with you, but he slept badly on account of his uneasiness about his club debts. In the middle of the night, he heard a soft tread pass his door, so he rose
They're saying the
and,
game's been
looking
fixed.
out, was surprised to
That's why I
see
heard
his
too.
cousin walking very
Do
stealthily
you know
along
a
the
man
passage
of aristocratic
until
bearing,
she disappeared
perhaps
into
with
your
a
dressing
distinctive
room?
wooden leg?
Petrified with astonishment, the lad slipped on some clothes and waited there in the dark to see what would come of this strange affair.
Sir George
Presently
Burnwell.
she emerged from the room again, and in the light of the passage lamp your
Burnwell.
son saw that she carried
The
the
name was known to
precious
me.
coronet in her hands.
But I needed to know more.
She passed down the stairs,
I hear he's fallen
and he,
from grace.
thrilling with
A ruined
horror,
baronet,
ran
you say?
along and
Born to a
slipped
good
behind the
family, but
curtain
now
near
a
your
life of
door,
crime.
whence he could see what passed in the hall beneath. He saw her stealthily open the window, hand out the coronet to
Burnwell's
someone
current
in the
female
gloom,
companions?
and then,
I believe
closing
he
it
sees a
once
different
more,
woman almost
hurry
every
back
night.
to her room, passing quite close to where he stood hid behind the curtain. As long as she was on the scene, he could
He
not
has many,
take any
Governor, but his
action
latest
without a
prize, she is
horrible
a real
exposure
beauty.
of the woman
A
whom he
proper
loved.
angel, they say. Too good
But
for the
the
likes of
instant
him.
that she was
They
gone,
say he's one of
he
the most
realized
ruthless
how
scoundrels
crushing
in
a
London.
misfortune this would be
A
for you,
dangerous man
and
indeed.
how all-important it was to set it right. He rushed down just as he was in his bare feet, opened the window, sprang out into the snow, and ran down the lane where he could see a dark figure in the moonlight.
The man in the
Sir
square-toed
George
boots,
Burnwell
the man who's
tried
at the
to get
window,
away,
is the
but Arthur
notorious
caught
Sir
him,
George
and there was a
Burnwell.
struggle between them,
An angel,
your
you say?
lad tugging at one
She lives
side
with
of the
her rich
coronet
uncle, a
and his
banker, out
opponent
in the
at the
suburbs.
other.
Streatham, I hear.
In the scuffle, your son struck Sir George and cut him in
Upstairs,
the
sir.
eye. Then something suddenly snapped, and your son, finding that he had the coronet in his hands, rushed back, closed the window, ascended to your room, and had just observed that the coronet had been twisted in the struggle and was endeavouring to straighten it when you appeared on the scene. "Is it possible?" gasped the banker. You then roused his anger by calling him names at a moment when he felt he had deserved your warmest thanks.
Heard you came into a bit
He
of
could not
sparkly stuff, Sir
explain the
George.
true state of affairs without betraying one who certainly deserved little enough consideration at his hands.
You are well informed.
He took the more chivalrous view, however, and preserved her secret.
What is it?
And that was why she shrieked and fainted when she saw the coronet, cried Mr. Holder. Oh, my God, what a blind fool I have
here to
been!
buy.
and his asking to be allowed to
I
go
hear you
out
have
for 5
3 pretty
minutes.
green stones
The
for
dear
sale.
fellow wanted to see if the missing piece were at the scene of the struggle. How
Why should I
cruelly
sell
I
them
have
to you?
misjudged him.
What about the extra £5?
When I arrived
My
at the
dear
house,
man, you have
continued
exhausted my
Holmes,
patience.
I at once went very
I
carefully
am not a
round
man
it
to be
to
trifled
observe if there were any
with,
traces
and
in the
I am a
snow
man who
which might
gets what
help
he
me.
wants.
I knew that none had fallen since the evening before, and also that there had been a strong
are you?
frost to preserve impressions.
£3,000.
I passed along
Not
the
a
tradesman's
penny
path,
less.
but found it all trampled down and indistinguishable.
3,000 for 3 little bits
Just
of
beyond
green
it,
glass.
however, at the far
You're
side of the
mad.
kitchen door, a woman had
Take it
stood and
or leave
talked
it.
with a man, whose round
I know what
impressions
they are
on
worth
one
to the man
side
who is looking
showed
for
that he
them.
had a wooden leg. I could even tell that they had been disturbed, for the woman had run back
Done then.
swiftly to the door, as was shown by the deep toe and light heel marks, while Wooden Leg had waited a little and then had gone away. I thought at the time that this might be the maid and her sweetheart, of whom you had already spoken to me, and inquiry showed it was so. I passed round the garden without seeing anything more than random tracks, which I took to be the police. But when I got into the stable lane, a very long and complex story was written in the snow in front of me. There was a double line of tracks of a booted man, and a second double line, which I saw with delight,
A pleasure
belonged
doing
to a
business
man
with you,
with
Sir George.
naked feet. I was at once convinced from what you had told me that the latter was your son. The first had walked both ways, but the other had run swiftly. And as his tread was marked in places over the depression of the boot, it was obvious that he had passed after the other. I followed them up and found they led to the hall window, where Boots had worn all the snow away while waiting. Then I walked to the other end, which was 100 yards or more down the lane. I saw where Boots had faced round, where the snow was cut up as though there had been a struggle, and finally where a few drops of blood had fallen, to show me that I was not mistaken. Boots had then run down the lane, and another little smudge of blood showed that it was he who had been hurt. When he came to the high road at the other end, I found that the pavement had been cleared, so there was an end to that clue. On entering the house, however, I examined, as you remember, the sill and framework of the hall window with my lens,
reward is to have been
and
able to
I
solve
could at
such a
once see
singular
that
and
someone had
interesting
passed
problem.
out. I could distinguish the
Oh, the
outline
barrel
of an
is
instep
found.
where the wet foot had been placed in coming in. I was then beginning to be
My
able
son,
to form an
Arthur.
opinion as to what
How
had
does this clear
occurred.
his name?
A
The
man
police still
had
believe he
waited
is the
outside
thief.
the window. Someone had brought
Now,
the gems.
You shall hear the true
The
and
deed
most
had been
singular
overseen
story
by your
of the
son.
Beryl
He had
Coronet.
pursued the thief,
She was deeply
had
in love
struggled
the
with him.
notorious and wicked
They
Sir
had
George
each
Burnwell.
tugged
For
at the
him, and to
coronet,
get money for him,
their
he was willing to do
united
anything.
strength causing injuries which neither alone could have effected. He had returned with the prize, but had left a fragment in the grasp of his opponent.
Are you ready to proceed?
So far I was clear. The question now was, who was the man, and who was it brought him the coronet? It is an
Mr.
old
Holmes,
maxim of mine
you
that
have
when you
saved
have
me.
excluded the impossible,
You have
whatever
saved my
remains,
honor.
however
Name your
improbable,
price, Mr. Holmes.
must
Any
be
price.
the truth.
Half my fortune would
Now
not be too
I
much.
knew
My
that it
reward's
was
in the
not
work
you
itself.
who had brought it down. So there only remained your niece and the maids. But if it were the maids, why should your son allow himself to be accused in their place? There could be no possible reason. As he loved his cousin, however, there was an excellent explanation why he should retain her secret, the more so as the secret was a disgraceful one. When I remembered that you had seen her at that window, and how she had fainted on seeing the coronet again, my conjecture became a certainty. And who could it be who was her confederate? A lover, evidently, for who else could outweigh the love and gratitude which she must feel to you? I knew that you went out little, and that your circle of friends was a very limited one. But among them was Sir George Burnwell. I had heard of him before as being a man of evil reputation among women. It must have been he who wore those boots and retained
Your
the missing
son,
gem.
seeing you appear, rushed back inside,
Even though he
hoping to
knew that
conceal the
Arthur had
damage,
discovered
or
him,
perhaps
he
to
might
finally tell
still
you the
flatter
terrible truth.
himself that he was safe, for
But
the
when he
lad
saw
could
your
not say a
fury
word
and
without
realised that to tell
compromising
the
his
truth
own
would be to bring
family.
utter disgrace upon the woman
Well,
he secretly
your
loved.
own good sense will suggest what measures I took
accuse me
next.
falsely.
I went in the shape of a loafer to Sir George's house, managed to pick
I
up
was
an
wrong.
acquaintance with his valet, learned that his master had cut his head the night before, and finally, at the expense of 6 shillings, made all sure by buying a pair of his cast-off shoes. With these I journeyed down to Streatham and saw that they exactly fitted the tracks.
Innocent boy.
I saw an ill-dressed vagabond in the lane yesterday evening, said Mr. Holder.
He has suffered
Precisely. It was I. I found that I
have
had my
already
man,
taken the liberty of
so
sending a
I
message
came
to the
home and
police with
changed
my
my
findings.
clothes.
Your son will be released
It
before
was
the
a
day is
delicate
out.
part which I had to play then,
Mary!
for I saw that a prosecution must be avoided to avert scandal,
dear
and
Mary.
I knew that so astute a villain would see that our hands were tied in the matter. I went and saw him. At first, of course, he denied
After
everything.
Arthur's arrest,
But when
once
I
the
gave him
immediate
every
crisis was
particular
over,
that had
Mary
occurred,
had
he
disappeared from the
tried to
house.
bluster and took down a life-preserver from the wall.
She left behind a note
I
for
knew
you.
my man, however, and I clapped a pistol to his head before he could strike. Then he became a little more reasonable.
Mary and her
I
villainous
told
lover,
him that
Sir
we would
George
give him a
Burnwell.
price for the stones he held, £1,000 apiece.
Forgive me, my dearest
That
uncle.
brought out the first signs of grief that he had shown. "Why, dash it all,"
Justice
said
is not
he.
always found.
"I've
in
let
the
them
court
go
of
at
law,
600 for
Mr.
the 3.
Sometimes the
I
consequences of our own
soon managed
actions
to
are
get the
cruelty.
address of the receiver who
fear
had
not.
them, on
Burnwell
promising
is a
him that
slippery
there would
fish
be
with
no
powerful friends. He
prosecution.
will evade the law.
Off
And as
I
for
set
Mary,
to
I
him,
think-
and after much chaffering I got our stones at £1,000 apiece. Then I looked in upon your son,
£4,000
told
you
him
spent.
that all was
3 for the
right,
gems, 1 for your
and
feet.
eventually got to
I
my
must
bed
repay you
about
at
2
once.
o'clock, after what I may call
I
a
am
really hard day's work. A
well
day which
paid
has
by
saved
the nature
England
of the
from a
problem
great
itself.
public scandal, said the
You have
banker,
saved more
rising.
than a coronet, Mr. Holmes.
Sir, I cannot
You have
find
saved
words
my
to thank
son,
you, but
and
you
you have
shall not
saved my
find me
life.
ungrateful for what you have done. Your skill has indeed exceeded all that I have heard of it. And now I must fly to my dear boy, to apologize to him for the wrong which I have done him. As to what you tell me of poor Mary, it goes to my very heart. Not even your skill can inform me where she is now. I think that we may safely say, returned Holmes, that she is wherever Sir George Burnwell is. It is equally certain, too, that whatever her sins are, they will soon receive a more than sufficient punishment. End of Adventure 11. The Adventure of the Beryl Coronet.
An interesting case, Watson. It shows how a man's greatest virtues can sometimes lead to the very greatest of calamities.